Hello, everyone! So, have you ever wanted to introduce yourself in German but had no idea where to even begin? Well, you've come to the perfect place. In just the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly how to do that. And we'll even master the German alphabet together. All right, let's get right into it.
So, here's what we've got lined up. First, we'll listen in on a simple chat between two people, Anna and Tom. Then, we'll pull back the curtain and see how the grammar works. After that, we'll tackle the sounds of the German alphabet, and then, the best part, it's going to be your turn to introduce yourself. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first things first. Let's just listen to two people meeting for the very first time. Now, don't worry about catching every single word just yet. Seriously, no pressure. Just try to get a feel for the rhythm and the flow of the conversation.
So it kicks off with a pretty formal greeting. Guten Tag, wie heißen Sie? This is a really polite way to ask, what's your name? Or literally, what are you called? Let's try it together. I'll say it, then you repeat. Ready? Guten Tag, wie heißen Sie?
And here's the classic response. Hallo, ich heiße Anna. Und Sie? Now, that verb, heißen, it literally means to be called. So she's saying, I am called Anna. And you? And see what she did there? She just turned the question right back to him with two simple words. Und Sie. It's super efficient, a really neat little trick.
Tom uses a slightly different phrase here. He says, Ich bin Tom. It means the exact same thing as Ich heiße, it's just I am Tom. So, you've got options, which is always nice. Then he asks a brand new question, Woher kommen Sie? The key word you want to catch here is woher, which means where from. Anna's answer is super straightforward. Ich komme aus Tunesien. That verb, kommen, means to come. So you just use that, follow it with aus, which means from, and then your country. Pretty simple, right? Now let's hear Tom's answer.
And Tom says, Ich komme aus Deutschland, aus Berlin. This is a perfect example of how you can get more specific if you want to. He says the country first, Deutschland, that's Germany, and then adds the city, Berlin.
And to wrap it all up, they finish with this really nice, polite closing. One person says, Es freut mich, which is like, pleased to meet you. And the other person can reply, Es freut mich auch. You just add that little word auch, which means too or also. It's the perfect way to end a first meeting. Okay, so we've seen the conversation in action. Now let's peek under the hood a little bit and look at the grammar that makes it all work. And I promise you, it is way more logical than you might think.
So how does German signal the difference between asking a question and just making a statement? What's the secret sauce? Well, it all comes down to one simple, really powerful rule.
And here it is. This is the big secret. The verb almost always stays in the second position. So look at the question. Wie heißen Sie? The question word wie is first, and bam, the verb heißen is second. Now look at the statement. Ich heiße Anna. The subject ich is first, and again, the verb heißen is right there in second place. This is so important. If you can just lock that verb into position number 2, you're taking a massive step towards actually thinking in German. It really is the key.
You know, the questions we saw started with what Germans call W-Fragen, or W questions, pretty much because they, well, start with a W. Here are the most common ones you'll need in your toolkit. Wie, for how. Woher, for where from. Wer, for who, and was, for what.
Of course, just like in English, verbs change their endings based on who's doing the action. Now, you can see on this chart how our three main verbs, heißen, sein, and kommen, change. But look, don't get overwhelmed. For right now, just focus on that very first line. Ich heiße, ich bin, ich komme. That's literally all you need to introduce yourself. We'll worry about the rest later.
All right, we've got the sentence structure down. Now, let's make sure it all sounds authentic. It is time to learn the absolute building blocks of the language, the German alphabet, or as they say, das Alphabet. Now, a lot of German letters sound pretty similar to English, but there are a few tricky ones you'll want to know. For example, A is this short, open ah sound, like an Apfel. The letter J is pronounced like an English Y, so we say yacht, as in jacket. The W is a big one. It's pronounced like an English V, so we say ve, like in the word Welt. And finally, the Z has a sharp ts sound, zet, like in Zucker. Just getting those few down will make a huge difference. Okay, now for something really unique to German, the Umlaut. These are the letters A, O, and U with two little dots on top. And trust me, they're not just for decoration. They totally change the sound.
A sounds kind of like the A in the word care, like in Käse. Is a sound we don't really have in English. Try saying but with really rounded lips, as in And U is like saying E, but with your lips puckered up, like you're about to whistle, as in Übung.
And here is the last special character you need to know, the S set. It kind of looks like a capital B with a long tail, right? All it is a sharp S sound. You'll see it all the time in common words like Straße, which just means street.
You know, learning the individual letters is super important, but the real shortcut to getting fantastic pronunciation is learning how letters team up to create totally new sounds. So let's check out the most common combinations.
Seriously, this chart right here is a cheat sheet for instantly improving your accent. Let's break it down. Sh is always going to be a sh sound, like in Schule. I is always pronounced like the English word I, like in Beispiel. Now if you flip that, E, it becomes a long E sound, as in Z. And here's a classic trap for beginners. At the start of a word, sp and st get a sh sound, so they become sport and st, as in sport and Straße.
Okay, you have listened, you have learned the rules, you have practiced the sounds. Now it is time to put it all together. It is your turn to speak. Let's do this. We're going to build your own personal introduction using 3 simple building blocks. Step 1. Start with your name. Ich heiße, and then just say your name. Step 2. Add where you're from. Ich komme aus, and then your country. And finally, step 3, finish it politely with Es freut mich. That's it. All right, you ready? I'm going to give you a few seconds of silence right now. I want you to take a deep breath and say your 3 sentences out loud. Go for it. Sehr gut. Fantastic job. You did it. That is one full, correct, and polite German introduction that you can now go out and use with total confidence. That is a huge step forward, so you should be proud of that.
And just like that, we're at the end. You have learned so much in just a few minutes. So, now that you can introduce yourself, what's the next thing you're curious about? What's the next German phrase you really want to learn? Keep that curiosity alive. Thanks so much for joining me today. Tschüss!